Hey team, Browncoat here for Koru-Cottage and doing another review for you. But I'm going to try things a wee bit different because I've done a lot of written work for Koru-Cottage. The video reviews are something that I'm just kind of getting into, and it's still a real learning curve for me. So any suggestions or anything like that, please chuck it in the comments below. But what I want to do is give you a bit of an idea of the sort of gamer I am when viewed through the lens of the sort of game that I'm reviewing. So I love Mass Effect, Everyone's Gone to the Rapture, Last Guardian, Bioshock. So games like that I love. Take that in context to the game that I'm reviewing, Shadow of the Colossus, and you can get a bit of a feel for where I'm coming from. So we set that to one side. I would like to acknowledge Sony New Zealand for sending us a review copy for this game and sending us it early as well, which was a big ups. Now I want to have a bit of a drill down to the game itself. Most people have heard of Shadow of the Colossus. It was a 2005 master on the PS2. It popped up in an HDified version in the PS3, but this is a full-on remake, like full-on. The underlying mechanics, the story, things like that are the same, but developers Bluepoint, who are masters of this remake sort of subgenre that this generation of consoles has received, have changed the game into what is one of the prettiest games on the PS4, which is mental, considering it's based on a game from 2005. So they've done everything. They've graphically upgraded it quite substantially. Audio's had a big change. The UI, thankfully, has had a big change because the UI was a bit of a, well, cluster on the PS2. And most importantly, the controls have been changed. Now you can jump between control schemes if you like the old PS2 control scheme, but the new control schemes are there. Way easier to manage grip and jump and sword and all that sort of stuff. But we'll get to that. Really, what Shadow of the Colossus does is, for me, personifies a game, maybe this current generation or maybe just all generations that have been. It personifies that whole terminology that people use, which is games is art. Game's a piece of art, it's an art form. Well, this game is. It is so minimalist, subtle and clever all at the same time, while delivering in-depth gameplay experiences with unique combat situations that keep you on your toes every time you fight a Colossus. So that brings me to the sort of the overall arc of the game. Story, not a lot to really work on here. There's no huge dialogue pieces. If anything, you get a wee bit of Japanese language and subtitles to work through, but even then they're really subtle and they leave a lot up to the interpretation of the player. Long story short, the Wanderer, or the character you play, has a girl who he wants to revive. She's died, not sure what reason, and we're not sure who she is, wife, sister, cousin, whatever. And the challenge for him is to kill the 16 colossi in this realm, and then this ethereal spirit will bring the wife or daughter, whoever, back to life. And that's really the game. So you go through, you use your sword, which is, you learn later on, is a fairly serious magic sword, but the sword reflects sunlight, gives you a beam to direct you where to go, find the colossi, figure out the puzzle on how to bring it down, kill the colossus, boom, move on to the next one. There's 16 of them. And then you get what I would actually consider a pretty sizable reward. So the reward is the conclusion to your Wanderer's story, and I'm not going to spoil it in any way because that is totally worth it, and do not risk watching any videos which are going to give you those little snippets of what may happen, because cutscenes wise this game is minimal. There is maybe a 5 or 10 minute cutscene at the start, and then I would say a good 20-minute chunk of cutscenes at end, and that's mixed in with some end credits, but stick with it. Make sure you watch the whole last part because it is worth it. And if anything, it subtly hints to some of these other games which are alluded to in this universe. So your Last Guardians, your Ico game from previous generations. It's really, really cleverly done. It's just like I say, overall the subtlety within this game and the deft touch that was produced back in 2005 has been protected, but it should be appreciated for what the game is nowadays. Like, it is still a masterclass in game. The cool thing that I found with Shadow of the Colossus is that the puzzles that were created back in 2005 are still just as clever as they are nowadays. Like, we've had a lot of games produced between 2005 and 2018, but the language of gaming, the language of clever placement of light, clever placement of prompts to get gamers who, you know, we're a special breed. Our brains work in a different way. We see little things like a certain shape or a piece of fabric hanging off something or a tree lying in a particular direction, and our brains go, oh, that looks like the developer's telling me something. And subconsciously or not, that's how we work, which makes us awesome. But anyway, the game, only issue that I can really drag to the fray is the camera. I mean, the camera was bad in 2005. Frankly, the performance was horrendous, but that's because they were really pushing the PS2's ability to process the chugging, the clipping. It was horrendous in 05. Now, it is smooth as silk now, except for the camera. And the camera will whip around in weird angles and get caught up in the fur of the Colossus that you're trying to climb, things like that. But I can't take away from the fact that that's my only complaint, really. The game is that good that just something like a camera not sitting quite right is my pet peeve. Hey, I ain't gonna bust their chops over that. Now, what I would say is, give yourself time to appreciate the world. There are big open spaces with not a lot going on in them. A lot of people would probably consider, in the realms of an open world game nowadays, is that it's empty. But it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be a solitary experience. It's supposed to be just you and your mission and the Colossus. So don't take that as a negative for the game. Appreciate the world that they've created, and appreciate the vistas and the views and the big set pieces, the sweeping camera angles when you're crossing a big land bridge. Take the time to really see what an amazing achievement that this game is. It's very easy to get caught up in this whole modern world with markers and side quests and the need to keep progressing your level and get new weapons and get new gear. This game isn't about that. This game is simple. This game is about you and your mission to save a girl, and the Colossus are standing in your way. And it is a sad moment every time one of these big beasts drop, but this is your mission. And I really, really love the game. And it's easy for me to probably harp on a bit too much, but what I would ask is if you do start, push all the way through. It's only about a 6-hour campaign, and there are plenty of videos out there to figure out how to do each Colossi. If you get stuck, check on my channel. I've done every single Colossus and how to beat them, including the final boss, but I've also made a point of having no spoilers, no video clips in there that are going to ruin anything for you. Alright, please swing past my channel and subscribe. If you've got any feedbacks, please give us some feedback. And more importantly, jump over to Koru-Cottage.com, check out some of the other reviews. Thanks for stopping by.